All right, hello everyone. Can you hear me just right? Cool. Okay, cool. Welcome to my talk. Today I'll be talking about pushing the information-theoretic limits of random access lists. This is joint work with Edward Peters and Michael Adams, who is my PhD advisor. So I would like to begin our session on algorithms with what I suppose is the functional programmer's most familiar data structure, which is the singly linked list. And it's awesome, right? It's simple to implement, it's purely functional, fully persistent, and some of the operations on singly linked lists are very performant. For example, cons, or prepending an element, is in O of 1, and obtaining the tail of the list is also in O of 1. Some other properties are, for example, you can cons two different heads onto the same tail in a singly linked list. And these are really nice. However, we know that a singly linked list, to perform a lookup or accessing a random element in the list, requires traversing up to n-1 pointers. And that is not so nice, right? So in 1983, Eugene Myers presented a new data structure, which we call the Myers list. Okay, and the idea is that a Myers list is basically a singly linked list, except that each cell has two additional fields. The first is a length field, which just stores the length of the list starting at that cell. And it also has a jump pointer, which points further down the list. So you can see on the slide, the jump pointers are represented by the dotted arrows. So Myers lists share most of the same properties as singly linked lists. For example, an O of 1 cons, tail, and it also supports tail sharing. But what's nice about the jump pointers is that it allows us to perform lookups in 3 log n minus 5 pointer traversals. Okay, and that's much better. However, we know that the information-theoretic limit for performing lookups on linked data structures is log n, right? For example, in a binary tree, starting from the root, we can access any node in the tree in log n pointer traversals. So the question that we want to answer is, can we do better as per usual, right? So in our paper, what we have done is to kind of play a game, okay? And the game is that we want to push the lookup complexity of Myers list from 3 log n minus 5 down towards the information-theoretic limit of log n. And we do this by only modifying where the jump pointer of each cell points to. Okay? So these are our contributions. Of course, we have the singly linked list, not created by us. And the first thing we did is to create or produce a new lookup complexity analysis of the original Myers list using recurrence equations. That is opposed to the original analysis done by Myers using a skew binary number system. Then we also introduced 2 new variants of the original Myers list. The first is what we call an improved Myers list with a complexity of 2 log n minus 3. And the next variant is an advanced variation of the Myers list, which has a lookup complexity of 1 plus 1 over sigma log n plus sigma plus 9. Okay, but basically, it just shows that it's possible to approach or have a lookup complexity that is arbitrarily close to the information-theoretic limit of log n. Okay? And the key insight that I would like to share with all of you is that we want to view this list-like data structure as a tree, and hence why I'm dressed like a tree today. So, and what I'll show is that there's 2 key reasons why we do this. Okay? The first is that it makes it easy to analyze the lookup complexity via our favorite recurrence equations, right? The second is it also makes it easy for us to create new variants of this data structure. Okay? So I'll first start with an overview of the original Myers list, which we call the basic Myers list. So remember that each cell of a Myers list has 4 fields. And the first 3 are pretty straightforward, right? Value is the value at that cell, so on and so forth. The remaining question really is, where does the jump pointer of each cell point to? So Myers gave a very simple rule, and it's roughly as follows. Okay? Suppose we're given a cell C at the front, and we're trying to decide where that jump pointer points to. And let's suppose the next cell from C is some x's. Okay? And the rule is this. If jumping from x's to some y's traverses the same distance as jumping from y's to z's, then the jump pointer of C just points to Z's. That's basically it, okay? And of course, in any other case, the jump pointer of C is just the same as its next pointer. And just like this, we are able to characterize the structure of a basic Myers list. So if we use this rule to iteratively construct a basic Myers list, what we get is a list that has this kind of structure. One thing that you'll notice is that certain regions of the list has the same pointer structure, right? So for example, if we looked at this list starting at, or the region starting at F and ending at 8, it has the same structure, at least modulo renaming and all that, to the region that starts at cell 8 and ending at cell 1. Okay? Moreover, every region has 2 subregions, each of which having the same pointer structure. So my question, or the question that we were asking is, well, we know that every region has 2 subregions, right? So in reality, what it means is that each region looks something like a tree, right? So let's look at this recursive construction rule and try to move things around to better reveal its tree structure, okay? So this is a region. It has a first cell L and a bunch of cells after that. What we'll do is we're going to let L, that first element, be the root of our tree. M is going to be the root of the left subtree, and N is the root of the right subtree, okay? So we're just going to move things around and we get something like that, okay? It's not really a tree and it has that P over there at the right-hand corner. It's weird, okay. Let's do the same thing on an actual list, okay? So we have this longer Myers list. Same thing, we move things around, and this kind of looks like a tree now. A little bit, right? Of course, omitting that cell number 1, we'll deal with it later, okay? But it is sort of a tree, okay? Now, remember, why do we do this? Okay, the first reason that we'll tackle is it makes it easy to analyze its lookup complexity, okay? So let's talk about that first. So, returning to a Myers list, how does a lookup or access, random access work? Okay, the idea is very simple. Suppose we're traversing from cell E to cell 2. We just take jump pointers greedily as long as we are not exceeding where we're trying to go. So from E, we jump to B, then to 8. From 8, we can't take the jump pointer since it exceeds where we're trying to go, cell 2. So we just take the next pointer, right? We do this over and over again. Eventually, we will arrive at our destination. Now let's move things and have a look at a traversal in this tree view, okay? Just side note, there's the cell F and G over there. They don't really exist. I'm just putting them there to show the complete tree structure, okay? But more importantly, by looking at a traversal in the tree view, what we see is that a traversal from a source to a destination can be split into 2 separate phases. The first is an outward phase that starts from the source and ascends up the tree, arriving to what's known as the target uncle of the source and destination. That is highlighted as cell 8 over there. From the uncle, we descend down the tree via the inward phase to our destination, okay? Now what's nice is that by splitting each traversal into 2 separate phases, we can analyze each phase individually using recurrence equations, okay? I won't go through the equations today, but at least intuitively, you can kind of see that the outward phase ascends the tree of height log n, and the inward phase descends the tree similarly of height log n. The only difference is that in the inward phase, to traverse from a cell to its right child, you need 2 pointers, right? So it sort of takes twice as long, okay? So overall, the lookup complexity of basic Myers list is 3 log n minus 5, okay? Now that's the intuitive argument. Again, for the formal proof, you can have a look at our paper, okay? So that's the first reason why we care about trees, but I guess more importantly is, excuse me, is that we would like to create new variants of a Myers list. Okay, so let's see how we can do that. Okay, so I'll talk about the improved Myers lists. And the fundamental idea is that we want to take regions of a basic Myers list and make it even more similar to a binary tree. Okay, so how can we do this? Okay, we look at the recursive construction rule of every region in the basic Myers list, and we know that a binary tree has more or less two additional properties. Okay? The first is that the subtrees of a binary tree don't share any cells. Okay? So let's do that first. Right now, both regions share this cell n over there. We don't like that. Let's split them up. Okay? We split them up into two distinct regions. And the next thing in a binary tree is that the root of a tree points to both its left and right child at the same time, right? So what we're going to do is we're just going to move the jump pointer of cell L to point to the root of the second subregion, which is Q. Okay, so I move it this way. And that's it. Okay, just with these modifications, we have arrived at a new data structure that is more close to a binary tree. Okay, and this is called, or this is what we call the improved Myers list. Okay, so if we just move things around once again, just to reveal its tree structure, you can tell this more closely resembles a tree, right? And just to show you an example of a improved Myers list, this is what it looks like, right? And if I just de-emphasize some of the pointers, you can tell, hey, we have recovered a tree-like structure. Okay, so how are lookups performed in this list? It's pretty similar, right? You can tell that if we were to perform a lookup from cell D down to cell 2, it can still be divided into two separate phases, right? You have the outward phase from D to 8. You have this additional next pointer to the uncle, and then from the uncle, again, you can descend to the destination. Okay? More importantly, what has happened is, well, firstly, the outward phase length remains at approximately log n, okay? But more importantly, the inward phase cost was 2 log n, but because now we have direct pointers to the right child, in an improved Myers list, the inward phase length is now log n, right? So we went from 2 log n down to log n. And so the overall lookup complexity is 2 log n plus 1 minus 3, okay? So basic intuition, or the key idea, is that we, view things as trees, move things around, that gives us better performance, right? Okay, of course, 2 log n is still some ways to go from the information-theoretic limit of log n. So once again, we have to ask, can we do better, right? So what I'll do is I'm just going to briefly talk about the advanced Myers list. I would say that it is a very, very complicated data structure, so I won't be going into all the details in my talk, but I'll just try to give you some intuition behind how it works, and I'll leave the rest of the details up to you to read in the paper. Okay? So first and foremost, let's just investigate the causes of slowdowns in our improved Myers list. Okay? So we have over here an example of a larger improved Myers list and a traversal from cell V to cell 2, okay? And I've highlighted the actual traversal in this data structure. Now, one thing that you notice is that, again, the traversal is split into two phases, but each phase is already at the information-theoretic limit of log n, right? So you can see, zoom out to the tree again. The tree has height log n, and each phase descends the entire height of the tree. Individually, optimizing these phases is very difficult because it's already at the theoretic limit, right? So how can we optimize the lookups of this data structure? The approach that we took is to kind of play a balancing act, okay? The idea is we are going to modify our list data structure so that if the inward phase is long, what we'll do is to make the outward phase short. And correspondingly, if the inward phase is already short, then it's okay. The outward phase is allowed to be long. Okay? Fundamentally, it's about balancing the paths so that the overall path length is approximately log n. Okay? So, how do we go about balancing these paths? The first thing that we do is that looking at this larger tree structure, we are going to introduce skip layers, okay? The idea is this. We choose some value sigma that is at least 1, okay? In this example, sigma happens to be 2, okay? Every layer of the tree starting from the bottom every sigma layers starting from the bottom is a skip layer. in these skip layers, we have skip cells. And the idea is that we are adding additional pointers to every cell in the skip layer, okay? And these are what we call uncle pointers. Now, the idea is that in a skip cell, the uncle pointer points to a right sibling of either itself or some ancestor, okay? The question is, well, which uncle does each skip cell point to, okay? To answer this question, in the paper, we assigned two metrics to each cell, okay? There is a notion of a right edge depth. That is the distance of a cell to the closest ancestor that is along the rightmost edge of the tree. There's also a notion of a right-handed depth, and that is basically the distance of a cell to the closest ancestor that is a left child. Now, right now it's like, okay, what is all these different metrics? For this talk, it's not too important. The main idea is that we have a fixed metric which allows us to assign uncle pointers to each skip cell. And fundamentally, the result is that the sum of the inward phase and the outward phase is about log n plus sigma, I should say. Okay? So the effect is without uncle pointers, we have this notion of double descent, where a traversal descends the height of the tree twice. With uncle pointers, we can shortcut and skip a portion of the outward phase such that the total lookup complexity is about log n plus sigma. Okay? There are some other edge cases in the paper which I will omit. Basically, what we also do is add more pointers to the leaves of our tree. Okay? I'll address one last point since I'm out of time, but basically I stated at the beginning of the talk that we are only going to modify where the jump pointers point to, right? But I added extra pointers, so technically we cheated. Okay? So to address this, what we do is instead of adding additional pointers, what we do is we don't add pointers to cells, but instead, logically, we just group some cells together so that the extra pointers are repurposed to become the pointers that we want, okay? So in reality, this isn't our data structure. It actually expands a little bit more, and therefore, the lookup complexity increases by a factor of 1 over sigma, okay? And just to give you an illustration of this structure, you have this really messy thing. It expands to something even messier, but fundamentally, there's only 2 outgoing pointers per cell. Okay, so we retain the same cell structure as we have started before. Okay, and this is the advanced Myers list with a lookup complexity of 1 plus 1 over sigma log n plus sigma plus 9. Okay, so that's the end of my talk. Basically, we started from the basic Myers list of complexity 3 log n minus 5. We introduced 2 new variants down to an advanced Myers list with a lookup complexity that is arbitrarily close to the information-theoretic limit, okay? If there's one takeaway, is that trees are awesome, okay? So thank you for attending my talk. I'll be happy to take questions.
Thank you very much. Very interesting talk.
Thank you.
I understand that the trees are great. So I'm now losing why you want to start from the Myers list. Why not using the tree from the beginning? So what's the benefit of using Myers list?
Okay, thank you for the question. So the question, I believe, is since we love trees so much, as is totally justified, why not start from a tree? The idea is that we want to retain list-like properties. For example, being able to cons from the head or obtain the tail in O of 1 time, so on and so forth. Well, you could start from a tree and add all these properties onto binary trees. For example, an O of 1 cons, O of 1 coulter. And the resulting structure is something that is called the Okazaki list. So it's a different data structure. If I could show you what you get if we start from a binary tree, it's something like this, where you have a bunch of binary trees, and if you amend this binary tree data structure to support list-like properties, you get something like this. You get an O of 1 cons and coulter, and so on and so forth. Now, this happens to have a lookup complexity of 2 log n approximately. So we decided not to start with this. We started with Myers list instead. Yeah, thank you. Okay.
What is the amortized cost of adding a new element to the head of the list?
Thank you. Okay, what is the cost of I guess, cons, basically. So let me quickly come here. Okay, for basic Myers list, the worst case is always O of 1. For the improved Myers list, if we are willing to maintain some additional metadata in which costs O of 1 space, the cost is O of 1 still. But for advanced Myers lists, we are actually not sure. The algorithm that we are aware of is approximately O of log n. That is, yeah, but I think that is a future work that we are willing to explore.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. One quick question about the memory usage that clearly goes up. I'm guessing it's still a linear blow up. But how? Like, what's the constant? How much extra space does this take compared to a regular const list?
Oh, twice.
Oh, exactly twice.
Yeah, because the cell structure is well, each cell instead of having 2 fields, it has 4. And that's it.
Right, but you add extra nodes as well, right?
Oh, no, we don't.
Ah.
We don't, yeah. So, okay. So I guess you're referring to this part where we cheated.
Sure.
Yeah, so, okay, so I alluded...
No, it's the one with extra layers, the tree with extra layers. You have that.
Okay. So the idea is not necessarily that we are adding extra data over here. It's more of the fact that if I could use my laser pointer, is that this happens to be the first cell, and then second cell, third cell, and so on. It's just moving the cells around. Yeah, but it's the same space. Yeah, thank you.
I'm interested in the constant factors. You wouldn't, for example, have an extra slide with some benchmark results on, would you?
Oh, okay. That's a very, very good point. Okay, we didn't do runtime benchmarks. In our paper, we have theoretical benchmarks, if there's any consolation. But, well, these are the theoretical benchmarks. We just wanted to do a sanity check on how the performance or comparing the real-world path lengths to the theoretical ones. I would say that the advanced Myers list has a much larger runtime overhead, primarily because the cost of computing what the path actually is takes a little bit long. So for us, our goal is kind of to just forcefully reduce the number of pointer traversals, which could be useful in any scenario where pointer traversals are very expensive. For example, if a pointer traversal corresponds to a network lookup, right? But yeah, it's a little bit slow for advanced Myers list, I would say. Thank you.
Oh, so are you actually planning to do any real-world testing, or like seeing actually how it performs in practice? Oh,
okay. We have done some real-world benchmarks. We didn't really optimize our implementation for finding the paths in the list, but there is a overhead for using advanced Myers list. The improved Myers list is okay, so it still roughly corresponds to the theoretical result. Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, let's thank Yong once again.
Thank you.